Hey ISSA, my name is Alex, or as you may saw in the intro video, I also go by Alito. I'm a independent personal trainer down here in the South Florida area. Just looking to take my skills to the next level through this strength and conditioning certification. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I've learned a lot along the way that I've been able to already impart onto my clients and train them in a more effective way. And so what I'm going to be walking you guys through for this final assignment is a training session designed for a powerlifter in the middle of his 12-week training program. And so the way it's going to work is there's going to be a warm-up sequence, actual workout session, and then followed by a cooldown sequence. So just to give you a little more detail, the workout is focused on squat. Right, so it's gonna be a pretty heavy lift for the squat. It's gonna be a 3x5 at 80% 1 RM, and then we're gonna follow that by some accessory work with the legs as well. That's geared more towards hypertrophy. So I'll be walking you guys through it, explaining everything along the way. So yeah, hope you enjoy and stay strong. Peace. Now that we're warmed up, we're going to go ahead and work on some foam rolling. And with today's focus being the squat and the quad being a big component of that movement, we're going to go ahead and foam roll the quads. We're looking for trigger points or just areas of greater tightness, really isolating that spot, and then oscillating on the foam roller for about 1 to 2 inches over that spot to break it apart. This is going to help with the mobility and flexibility of that muscle and really help loosen things up for the lift. We're going to do this for about 30 to 60 seconds on each side. And then after that, we're going to follow it up with 30 to 60 seconds of concentric and eccentric action over that trigger point to enhance that effect further. In this phase of the warm-up, we're going to work on stretching the quads further in a half kneeling stance. So we're focused on keeping that back knee down and in the same position at all times, keeping the core tight and our back straight and upright, and then just pushing forward with using the back glute to fire off and push us forward and really extend that quad. We're going to spend 30 to 60 seconds on each side. In this phase of the warm-up, we're focusing on stable muscular activation. So here we're going to get into the bridge position. We're focused on contracting as much of the body as possible, using the band and pointing the knees outward to activate our glute medius. And then we're going to contract forcefully as hard as we can at the top, really firing up the glutes and priming ourselves for the movement ahead. We're looking for 3 sets of 5 reps on this warm-up. In this phase of the warm-up, we're looking to establish a good mind-muscle connection to develop a good pattern for the movement. With that being the squat, we're going to do some eccentric squats, taking our time on the way down, about 3 seconds, while keeping good form, and then contracting all the way into the top. You can use either a light weight or just pure body weight for this movement. The goal is just to warm up, not to fatigue the muscles, and we're looking for 3 sets of 5. In this final phase of the warm-up, we're looking to fire up our central nervous system. So we're going to accomplish that using some vertical jumps. We're going to go ahead and do that forcefully and quickly as possible, landing on the balls of our feet, keeping our joints safe, but really going ahead and really firing things up and getting some work in here. Looking for 3 sets of 10. All right, now that we're ready for our squat, first and foremost, we definitely want to address is the form, making sure we're not taking any lift for granted, regardless of how light it is, and making sure we're treating each rep with the respect it deserves. So when we're setting up our bar, we want to make sure that our rack is set up at the appropriate height based on our anatomy. Once you are ready for the lift, making sure you are getting under the bar and centered, making sure that feet is placed anywhere between hip to shoulder width apart, depending on your anatomy. Making sure that the weight is distributed evenly on your feet between your heel and your toes so that you're creating that tripod effect. Once you have that set, take a nice big breath, brace your core, keep your legs contracted, and descend with ease and control, making sure that your knees are attracting your toes, where your knees, when they're coming forward, they're in the same angle as your toes, right? And once you reach the appropriate depth at the bottom, explode contractfully and forcefully to the top to get to that top position. And once you are done, re-rack appropriately and making sure you are re-racked safely. Now, as we're progressing from our lighter loads to our heavier loads, you want to make sure that our jumps are appropriate, right, when you're working your way up incrementally. So, for example, in this first set, we did 30% for 10 reps. Then we followed that up with 8 reps at 54%. Then another set at 70% for 7 reps before finally getting to our working rep, which was 3 sets of 5 at 80%. So you want to make sure that the jumps aren't too small so that you're spending too much energy on the warm-ups, that you don't have enough energy to complete the lifts at the end. And at the same time, you don't want to make the jumps so big that your muscles aren't prepared to handle that extra load. And then now as you get to heavier and heavier reps, you may find you may need extra support by way of either wrist wraps or a weightlifting belt for that extra support. Say in this case for a low bar squat, you may need that extra support for your wrists, and then again the weightlifting belt, extra support for your spine. So on these lifts, we're doing some accessory lifts to help support our bigger lifts, right? So these lifts are geared more towards hypertrophy. So their sets are going to look like anywhere between 3 to 4 with rep ranges from anywhere between 8 to 12. Here we have the Bulgarian split squat, where we have one foot planted on the floor, the other foot resting on the bench, and that front leg is what's going to provide the work for the lift. Some things to take note is to make sure that our core is nice and tight, keeping our back straight as we move up and down vertically, and making sure that on the way down, that heel is not lifting up at the bottom range, at the bottom end of that lift, and also making sure we're not swaying side to side. The good thing about doing these single leg lifts is that it can help assist with some of the balancing aspects of our fitness, making sure that maybe we're doing some corrective work for some imbalances that may be present within us that could also again help with our bigger lifts. Alright, so up next we got some leg extensions. And so again, the goal here is for hypertrophy, and we're targeting the quads here. And so we want to make sure we are using an appropriate weight that's gonna, be tough enough so that we're feeling a nice good burn by the end of the set. You want to make sure that the machine is set up appropriately for your anatomy, for your height, your length, and making sure that we're anchored down using those handles to keep us in place, keeping our core tight, provide those bases of support for the quads to do the work. And so we're going to extend forcefully, right? And then we're going to control that descent on the way down, not letting weight slam or anything like that. So on the other end of the extensions, we have the curls. And these are used for isolating the hamstrings. So it's going to be a very similar setup to the extensions, except we're just going the other way now. So instead of extending, we're now curling. So we want to set ourselves up on the machine, making sure that the machine is set up properly for our anatomy, making sure we're using an appropriate weight for our rep ranges, and making sure that we're keeping our core tight, our glutes tight as well, to kind of anchor the hamstrings and pull up and contract forcefully, while again controlling the weight on the way down, not letting anything slam, and we're keeping it nice and strong. So for our final movement, we have some seated calf raises. There was no machine available, so sometimes you got to improvise. In this case, I just sat on a bench, placed a a pretty heavy dumbbell on top of my knees, put some blocks under my feet, and got underway. So, but the focus here is the same. Again, we're just looking for a good amount of contraction and extension of the calves to work them out, and looking for that extra support work for our bigger lifts. So essentially, once we're set up and good to go, just making sure we're just gonna contract and extend with nice control, extending down with control, and then contracting forcefully, and maybe a little hold at the top, maybe get a little extra out of it. In this case, because of the nature of this type of lift, just want to make sure that dumbbell is just staying nice and secured and it's not rolling anywhere. And if need be, you can also use a cushion if the weight is too much for your knees. Alright, to kick off the cooldown sequence, we're going to go back on the foam roller, hitting those quads again. The only difference between the foam rolling now and from the warm-up sequence is that we're going to actually foam roll, extend the range of the foam roll, and attack more of the surface area of the quads to promote more of the waste removal that may have accumulated during your workout. Alright, and just like the warm-up sequence, we're going to follow up the foam rolling again with more biphasic stretching. Again, trying to lengthen the quads after big heavy contractions that we just subjected it through during the workout. So same principles apply. Keep that knee planted down. Keep trying to do what you can to lengthen those quads. Push for extra range of motion just to get that extra length in there post-workout. Alright, we're going to follow that up with some low intensity steady state cardio. Again, nothing crazy here. Again, just a little bit, some 5 to 10 minutes on the rowing machine, treadmill, whatever is available to you. Just something to help bring the heart back down to its normal beat range. And finally, we're going to cap off the cooldown sequence with this joint mobility flow. So the idea behind this is to take each joint, or at least most of the joints, through its range of motion, full range of motion, so we can really lubricate those joints and keep them nice and healthy and promote the longevity of those joints as long as we possibly can. You know, there's a lot of emphasis in the fitness world about, you know, the muscles and strengthening the muscles and growing the muscles in size, but there isn't really a lot placed upon the joints, tendons, and ligaments that these muscles rely upon to function properly. So I look at this as a form of insurance to mitigate the possibility of injury risk. And so I think it's really important to practice some kind of joint mobility flows and incorporate that into your training regimen to hedge against injuries from occurring. So we're kind of starting from the head and work our way down to our feet. We've already done some neck movements, kind of going side, you know, all the way around, forward and backwards, side to side. Now we're going around, round and round in each direction. So if you're looking at me from the top angle, looking straight down, you would see my head moving in a circle, right? From there, we're going to go ahead and just work out these shoulders and traps, going in circles in both directions. From here, we're going to bring our elbows back and then forward. Really try to open up the thoracic, the chest, and the thoracic spine. Try to open that up. And you go side view to see how we emphasize the curvature to really open them up and stretch it out and take it through their full range of motion. There, working some twists, some abdominal twist, using some help with the arms. Really good to move in this plane of motion as well instead of just front and back. It's always good to move side to side in twisting motions. Now we're straightening our arms, moving our arms like the hands of a clock, keeping those arms straight, those elbows locked out. Using this more as more for shoulder mobility here. From here, we're gonna work our sides, focusing on the lats, really getting that nice stretch in. This is actually one of my favorites. This tends to be where I tighten up a lot. So this is a really, really good stretch, especially if you have really tight sides, QLs, lats. This really helps out a lot with that. We're gonna go ahead with some shoulder circles. Again, keeping those elbows straight up, and just making nice, small, smooth circles in each direction. Now we're gonna bring that down and out to the side, working that range of motion as well, keeping our focus on the shoulder. Again, small circles in each direction. From here, some more shoulder work as we twist the entire arm over to get that shoulder nice and over. Kind of like think about like your arms as a towel that you're wringing out, and you want to twist it over, have that palm face the sky as you twist over. And now we're going side to side, just a nice way to work the sides, the hips, the core, just to get that really good, push that extra range of motion. Not a movement we typically do. And here we're just rolling the hips out. Just nice and easy. Just doing a few reps in each direction. Good for your low back as well. Alright, from here we're going to work on the hips now. We're going to do some pelvic tilts. So right now I'm moving the pelvis just forward and back. Just getting that range of motion, pushing that around. Now we're going side to side with it. Notice how as one hip drops, the knee bends to assist with that knee dropping while the opposite one extends. So good to know. Now we're going to combine those two movements and bring it all the way around. It's going to be forward, side, back, side, forward. Going in each direction. From here, we're going to do some side lunges. Try to really work the sides there. It's a really great movement for the glute medius. It's really, really good for stretching that out. All right, we're gonna follow that up with some leg swings. So we're gonna extend the leg, let it go up while it's straight. And then when it comes down, when the knee meets the other knee, it's gonna bend at that knee. Now we're gonna go straight out to the side with it, keeping that knee locked out, and just using the glute medius again to just bring it up to the side. Now we're just working the other side, which can also be a bit of a balancing act. There, I'm going to go with some leg circles, keeping that knee locked out and just really trying to rely on those hip muscles those hip muscles to bring that leg up and around each way. This can also be a bit of a balancing act as well. So if you have trouble with that, this is definitely going to help. From there, this is pretty nice. Like some knee circles, which actually helps not only the knees, but it can also help with the hips and the ankles as well, and the feet. You can see how my feet have to move around to make this movement possible. From there, we're going to work on some foot circles. So what I'm doing here is applying pressure on the outside edges of my foot, really working on really good ankle and foot mobility here. And you really just want to put as much weight on those edges as you feel comfortable with. You have that other leg there that you can compensate with, so use your discretion. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.